You just can't eliminate cyber risk. I mean, things are going to change, as you said. However, you can eliminate the cost of it, and that's by transferring that which you can't mitigate to an insurance company.
Joshua Motta is the CEO at Coalition, joining us here on the ground in San Francisco at RSAC 2025. Really nice to have you.
Lovely to be here.
So talk to me first and foremost about what brings you and your team at Coalition to the conference this year. And Joshua, I wonder, is there anything you're hoping to learn and get out of the experience this week?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Coalition, we're the largest writer of cyber insurance in North America, one of the largest globally. And so we have a vested interest in the security of all of the policyholders that we serve. So, of course, we're here at RSAC looking to understand where innovation's headed, where the threat landscape is headed, so that we can be best positioned to protect our customers. We're also looking to work with a number of vendors because, of course, cybersecurity is a team effort. Insurers working with security vendors to improve the resilience of companies across the economy.
Joshua, how have you seen that threat landscape that you just referenced evolve in even just the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, in some respects, it hasn't evolved at all, sadly. Sometimes I feel like I come to RSAC and it's divorced from the reality. We're talking so much about the future, the generative AI, when the actual threats we see facing businesses today are really the ones we've seen for probably the past decade. Things like business email compromise, ransomware, vulnerable perimeter devices, weak passwords, the like. These are the things that are really continue to trigger substantial amounts of losses for our customers. I mean, just over the past 12 months, we've paid out over $400 million in losses, and most are the result of incidents that, would be entirely predictable.
What are some of those common mistakes, those pitfalls that you're seeing those customers make that I'm sure they're giving you feedback and saying, I wish I had known this sooner?
I mean, we think about risk surfaces. So, of course, there's the risk surface of your employees, and social engineering is a big one. So there's really no hacking involved. It's just tricking them into doing things, to wiring payments. Another is, of course, email, right? If you're not using effective controls like multi-factor authentication, and you're using weak passwords, we see account takeover, we see business email compromise being one of the highest frequency events. The other risk surface is, of course, anything that touches the public internet. So these are sort of your boundary devices. And we see threat actors exploiting vulnerabilities in those, exploiting stolen credentials or compromised credentials, and then using that access to move laterally and deploy ransomware, which is perhaps the most severe incident that we see across the cyber insurance industry.
The only constant is change. And it's almost impossible to predict how all of these rapidly developing cybersecurity threats and the technologies are going to change. But I wonder if you have any personal predictions for where you see these threats going, even in just the next few months.
You're right, and it's fundamental that we think about this as a risk management problem. Things are always going to change. Hackers are always going to find a way to get around whatever defenses we put up. Obviously, generative AI is being actively used by threat actors to improve the efficacy of their campaigns. And that's why we think that insurance is such a critical part of the problem, right? A lot of people think security is this linear line that goes to zero, and once you hit it, you're secure. In reality, it looks a lot more like a diminishing returns curve, which is a fancy way of saying you can invest an infinite amount in security, and you'll reduce a lower and lower amount of risk over time until it tails out. And so it's a fancy way of saying you just can't eliminate cyber risk. I mean, things are going to change, as you said. However, you can eliminate the cost of it, and that's by transferring that which you can't mitigate to an insurance company. And so that's where I think thinking of this as a risk management problem, where whatever you haven't transferred or mitigated, you've accepted, is sort of simple math that every business or every organization can use to think about how they manage it.
What emerging technologies, Joshua, do you find yourself most closely following?
Yeah, emerging technologies. I mean, I would say, look, obviously generative AI is the word of the moment. How we can use it in our business, how we can use it to help protect our customers. But really, I think more about business model innovations. In our particular case, we make money by selling insurance, which liberates us from the traditional technology business model where we have to sell the software. In fact, we give most of the software we create away for free. And not because we're Mother Teresa, it's because we have an active interest in protecting our customers. And so in many respects, a lot of people say, particularly small businesses can't afford cybersecurity, but in reality, it's that they can't afford to think about it. If we can make it really easy, if we can give them free tools in order to protect themselves, we think we can make a dramatic impact. So it's really business model innovation that I'm the most excited about in cybersecurity.
Absolutely. And anything else specifically about the insurance component of all of these conversations and all of these customers and clients in the cybersecurity space that you would want the average viewer watching this interview to know about?
As insurance companies, we sit in this unique position where we get to correlate the ones and zeros for all the technology, cybersecurity side of the house with the dollars and cents of the actual losses. Like we have a front row seat with, the popcorn in hand, and we get to see when failures of security, what those outcomes are, which means that we can actually help security vendors build better products that are actually tailored to address the problems companies actually have, not just the marketing buzzwords like Gen AI, right? And that's what we're motivated to do. We're motivated to build products that actually help reduce the frequency of losses that our customers experience.
Joshua Motta, congratulations on all of the success. It is great to have you here join us at RSAC in San Francisco, and best of luck on the road forward.
Thank you so much.